The biggest game of the week one college football slate is LSU versus FSU. And a lot of people are sick and tired of Florida State fans. Florida State fans pretty much have made it seem like it's either playoffs or bust for them. And you can kind of see why. I mean, this is the most talented team that Florida State has had in a very long time. And meanwhile, you got LSU, who's coming off a really spectacular season last year, year one under Brian Kelly. And both of these programs are looking to jump into the playoff conversation. Both of these two teams are looking to cement themselves as legit national championship contenders for the foreseeable future. You ask me who has more pressure to win this game, LSU or FSU? Gotta go FSU, man. FSU has super high expectations. People are picking FSU to dethrone Clemson and win the ACC. If Florida State loses this game, how do we view them after? Because they have a lot of hype. They're on top of the world right now. They're in the top 10. They were 8th in the AP poll, people. This Florida State team has a lot of talent. But if they lose this matchup to LSU, and then let's say they lose to Clemson, that's pretty much their season. These are the two biggest games that Florida State is going to play in this year. And the LSU, you lose this game, then your road to the playoffs gets even more complicated because you're playing in the stacked SEC. So your margin for error is already incredibly thin. With a loss here, it becomes even thinner. Both of these two teams have playoff expectations. And even though this is a week one game, it seems like there are really high playoff implications at stake in this matchup. Jaden Daniels, Jordan Travis are the two quarterbacks starting in this matchup. Both are considered to be two of the best quarterbacks in college football. Both look to be Heisman hopefuls for this season. Jordan Travis, this man's development has been very impressive. I remember there was a time when Jordan Travis, every time he used to come into the game, you knew what the hell he was finna do. Run the football. His development as a passer has really impressed me over the last couple of years. And he's going against a really good front seven in LSU. Now, LSU is going to be without one of their best players in Mason Smith, who got suspended stupidly by the NCAA for a bullshit reason, and he's not going to be able to play in this game, but LSU still has a ton of monsters on that front seven. They got a ton of depth and talent on that defensive line, and their linebacker unit is really good. You know about Harold Perkins, the freshman phenom last season. He's going into a second season, but they acquired a really underrated linebacker from the transfer portal. His name is Omar Spades. And last year he played for Oregon State. You gotta neutralize the rushing ability of Jordan Travis. When he gets out to the open field, it's wraps. He's really elusive, really fast, agile. He has cat-like reflexes when he decides to tuck and run. LSU has to be able to contain him. And they got to be able to slow down these wide receivers, bro. Like, LSU secondary is a really big question going into this game. And it's not really because they don't have talent. There is talent there. You just wonder how that talent is going to fare in the first game of the regular season against one of the best receiving corps in all of college football. They got Johnny Wilson, who's 6'7", 235, 240 fucking pounds. Who's going to guard that in the LSU secondary? Who do they have at cornerback that's going to be able to line up and contain Johnny Wilson? This is like a created player on NCAA or Madden. 6'7", 235 pounds or 240? That's insane. All Jordan Travis has to do is throw it up to this fool, and he's going up and coming down with it. There's a reason why this FSU team is receiving a lot of attention. This team isn't overrated if we're just evaluating them based on sheer talent. We know LSU has a really great team. Okay, but FSU's team is just as good as LSU. They have pretty much built their team through college football free agency, which we consider to call the transfer portal, when really it's free agency if we're just keeping it 100. And the LSU, they've gotten some good players from the transfer portal, but FSU went ham in the portal this offseason. They got Fentro Cypress, the second best cornerback in the transfer portal behind Travis Hunter. Offensively, you got Keon Coleman from Michigan State. They also got Jaheim Bell from South Carolina. Jaheim Bell is a freaking monster, bruh. He's like a chess piece. You can line this fool up anywhere on FSU's offense. Last year, I watched a lot of him at South Carolina. They had this man playing quarterback in a wildcat, fullback, tight end, wide receiver. Hell, what other positions is he going to play next? There are a lot of playmakers on this LSU offense that FSU's defense is going to have to be able to slow down. We know the talent that FSU has on offense is really good, but the talent that they have on defense is just as good as what they have on offense. LSU's offense was kind of Jaden Daniels dependent at times. When Jaden Daniels was balling out, LSU was really good. When he was doing damage not just through the air, but with his legs, LSU's offense was hard to stop. You remember that game that he had against Alabama and Florida. When Jaden Daniels was on, LSU was on. You wonder if that's going to be the same scenario this year. Are they going to be still Jaden Daniels dependent? Or are they going to have other guys who step up at running back? Your wide receiving core is really good. Your wide receiver, you for a reason. You got Malik Neighbors. You also got a lot of talent behind him. This LSU secondary has a lot of talent on paper, but they're going to get tested against this LSU offense, just like how this FSU offense is going to test that LSU defense. Florida State defensively, you got a guy in Jared Verse, who if you're an LSU fan, you should be very familiar with because he single-handedly was raising hell on your offense. LSU's offensive line, not just is a major question mark going into this game, but it's a major question mark going into this season. And the play of their offensive line this year is going to have a big factor on determining if they're going to be able to repeat and win the SEC West again. They got two really good offensive tackles. Will Campbell, Emory Jones, both were freshman All-Americans last year. So the main concern with their offense is on the interior. Are they going to get good guard play? Are they going to get good play out of their starting center? This is a really talented defensive line that Florida State has outside of Jared Verse. They got a lot of talent up front and a lot of depth. They got a lot of experience on this defense. This isn't an inexperienced group. There shouldn't really be any miscommunication problems. There shouldn't be a lot of missed tackles. When you got an experienced defense, you expect your defense to be fundamentally sound. Not having a lot of penalties, not having miscommunication problems, not having coverage bust. When I'm trying to evaluate this LSU offense, it's really going to come down to if this offensive line is going to be able to protect Jaden Daniels. Because if that offensive line played like how it did last season, I don't really think this game is going to be close. I think that Florida State will win it by at least 14 points if LSU's offensive line doesn't show up. Florida State, their offensive line is probably the best that has ever been since 2013, 2014? Florida State, the way they've utilized the transfer portal, the way they've been able to go in there, not just find great players, but develop them as well, is a big reason why they're receiving so much hype. I'm a little surprised that a lot of people are picking LSU to win this game. I did a poll on the channel a couple of days ago, and over 70% of you guys are picking LSU. And I'm pretty sure there's a good amount of you guys who are picking LSU because you just want FSU fans to shut the F up because you're tired of them hyping up their team, but the hype is warranted. You're stacked at every position. Your main concern is going to be at safety. One of your safety positions because you're losing a veteran guy to the league. So you wonder how his replacement is going to step up. But outside of that, I mean, this team is stacked. They don't really have too many big question marks. They return their most productive players on offense. They return a lot on defense. And I got to pick them to win this game. I'm going with FSU. Florida State, man, they got a lot to prove in this game. People probably view LSU as the better team, but I feel like FSU is the better team in this game. With all of the pieces that they acquired from the transfer portal, Jaheim Bell, Cypress, Keon Coleman, there's just way too much talent on this Florida State team for them not to be able to win this game. And surprisingly, they're a 2.5-point underdog heading into this matchup. So maybe there's something that I'm overlooking about FSU in this game that may be a big weakness that I'm not mentioning. But Florida State, to me, they got a great offensive line. FSU has really good offensive tackles, but I don't know how good their interior guard play is going to be. And they were too Jaden Daniels dependent last season. Now, I do expect this to be a better team. Defensively, they should be even better than what they were last year, but it's a lot of freaks on this FSU offense. And guarding Jaheim Bell by himself is already a problem. But you got a game plan for not just him, but also Johnny Wilson, 6'7", 240, 235 at wide receiver. Where the hell do you find that at? I like Florida State to beat LSU.